And we're back, folks, right here in WWE Network and Chill. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and right here on the show, I break down all the original content that I watch on the WWE Network. Today, we're talking Legends House, Season 1, Episode 9, the Farewell, My Friends episode. It's a very, very emotional episode here in Legends House, the penultimate episode of the show. Technically the season finale. There is one more episode after this, episode 10, but that is entitled The Boys Are Back Again, where they get back together 2 years after the fact, after they filmed the show in 2012. They reunite, get back together in 2014 to discuss their fondest memories and their worst memories from Legends House, which I will talk about in the subsequent episode of WWE Network and Chill. But like I said, guys, farewell, my friends. This episode of Legends House gets fucking real. So it kicks off with Ashley informing the Legends that they will be hosting a farewell party for everyone in the surrounding neighborhood. They all have to come up with songs and do a whole grand performance. And they all come in for one old group hug with Ashley. The Fink gets pantsed. By who? I think it was Piper. I don't remember. And then Fink says, I have no comment on that, which was pretty funny. So then the Legends go out to dinner one last time together. They bond. Everything goes well. And then shit just starts to get real. So they start off the dinner. They start off their dining experience talking about, their fondest memories of the show and, doing the LARPing in the Chippendales and all that other kind of stuff, doing all that stuff together. They all admit to cheating in that game show game a couple episodes earlier at one point or another, with the exception of Hillbilly Jim and Jimmy Hart. I think they were the only two that did not admit to cheating during that game. But anyway, Tony says, you are the weirdest people I have ever met in my life. And Patterson said, that is certainly something coming from you, Tony, which was pretty funny. So then they go from discussing memories of the show to discussing memories from their wrestling careers, highlights of their lives and stuff like that. And then this is where shit got real. So then they start talking about the highlights of their lives and to really kind of share a deep, dark secret. And they all go around the table sharing their own personal stories. Tony Atlas, or not Tony Atlas, sorry. Or it was Tony Atlas. Tony Atlas was the first one to kick us off here. I don't know if Piper shared anything. I don't remember. He might have, but I just don't recall. Tony was the first one he wrote down here. He said back in 1989 he was homeless. He was going through dumpsters every single night looking for food when he was found by a woman who brought him back to her house, kept him warm, gave him a bath because he was fucking freezing. She brought him to a doctor right afterwards who had said to her that if he was outside any longer, he would have been dead. And he ended up marrying her. That ended up being his wife, so that was a real touching story. Hillbilly Jim says that he bought his mother a house and a car before he even bought himself one, which does not surprise me at all, because this guy is the nicest guy in the entire world from what it looks like and sounds like, so that does not surprise me whatsoever. Mean Gene starts breaking down his deep dark secret. His deep dark secret is that he had kidney disease at one point. He did not say when, I don't think, but he did admit to having kidney disease at one point. And his wife stepped up to the plate and donated him a kidney. Again, really, really deep stuff. Hacksaw, or Jimmy Hart, then comes out, as we found out at the end of the previous episode. Jimmy Hart comes out and says to the rest of the Legends, in addition to Mean Gene and Tony, that he had lost his daughter. And I almost got teary-eyed when he said, I wish I could have seen her one more time. And, I'm no parent, but I think it really kind of speaks volumes. I really think... this is not saying much, and I think losing a child is really the hardest thing that could... the most difficult thing that could ever happen to you. And I can only imagine what that must feel like. So he starts breaking down. Hacksaw, we come to him. His deep, dark secret is that his first wife, Vicky, which I did not know he had. I know he had a wife and kids, as he's talked about at other various points during the show. But he was married once before. His first wife, Vicky, they got in a bad car accident. The guy drove off from the scene, did not bother to check up on him. They flipped, I think he said 2.5 times. They ended up on the roof. He crawled out of the car. He saw Vicky. He saw her shoe anyway, to know that that she was there with him. And then she got carried away in a helicopter, and he found out that she had passed away in the helicopter. So again, he starts breaking down, which is fucking horrifying. That was awful. Fink, not quite as deep, but still very emotional. He had said that he had gotten bullied as a kid, verbally bullied, and that making it to the WWE said he had proved everyone fucking wrong, and I'm proud as fuck for it. And you do not hear Fink swear all that often, so for him to exude that energy and show his passion for the business and showing that he had proved all those naysayers wrong and all those bullies wrong and kind of showing them that he had become successful, really was something meaningful. So that was pretty cool too for the Fink to share that. And then we get to Pat Patterson, who of course shares the story and finally comes out with him being gay. He comes out of the closet finally, publicly, for the first time in over 50 some odd years. He comes out of the closet as being officially gay. I mean, at this point, even when this was filmed in 2012, people had known for years. It was essentially the worst kept secret that Pat Patterson was bisexual, was gay. And he had just never come out about it, though. He had never... They had never, not bisexual, I'm sorry, just gay, but they had never come out publicly the fact that he was gay, and until now, until this episode of Legends House, rather, and it was a big deal, obviously, for him, as it would be for anyone. The Legends celebrate their final dinner together before sending off, all happy and smiling, and Pat Patterson finally feels like he can be himself again. He doesn't have to be a fucking phony anymore, as he said it in his own words, so really a fitting conclusion to their last dinner together. So they celebrate, like I said, they go to the homecoming party, their final farewell. Mean Gene makes a mean drink, I guess, no pun intended, and he makes a drink for Ashley, but he pours a lot of vodka into it, and Ashley does admit in a pre-taped interview that it did seem like he was trying to take advantage of her, which was pretty funny. Piper performs Scotland the Brave, I believe it's called, on his, I don't even know what it is, it's not a flute, but it was pretty damn impressive. All the Legends go up to the stage and do karaoke together. They do a good job. They come up with a song, their own lyrics, and they all do a good job. And then Pat Patterson does a solo of My Way, which I think had been known for years that he was always really, really, really good at that, and he fucking killed it. You see Piper start crying. Everyone starts crying. It's an amazing performance, and I got to give the guy a hand, too. It was really something special to see him perform that. He just fucking killed it, so that was great. So then they all come back to the house. Hacksaw says it's weird waking up, or not Hacksaw, sorry. Hillbilly Jim says it's weird waking up and then knowing that he has to leave later that day after being in the house for so long. Tony is the first one to take off, makes up with Hacksaw Jim Duggan on the way out, who he had a beef with throughout the show, or at least early on anyway. Hillbilly Jim is the next one to leave. Then Jimmy Hart, who said he had a great time. I'm going to keep these memories forever, is what he says. Mean Gene says, I can't wait to get the fuck out of here, which is funny. Pat Patterson says something similar before running right out the door. And then it comes right back down to Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Roddy Piper, two of the closest friends of anyone on this entire show. Hacksaw says, I think Roddy and I are really good friends by this point. And prior to the show, he had said that he never really felt like he had a real, true best friend in this business, and now he has one in Roddy Piper. And then Hacksaw leaves, so it's just Piper all by his lonesome. And then he says, I hate goodbyes. And this is really when I almost started to tear up, because now knowing, this show aired initially in the spring of 2014. Piper had passed away a little over a year later that summer, and watching this back now knowing that he's gone is just so tough. It's almost difficult to not cry while watching the final 2 minutes of the show, and from him saying I hate goodbyes to him almost crying when he said I had a new family, and then you got to go take it away again, which was also tough to hear. And then the real kicker. So you see Piper walking around the house all by himself, waiting for his ride. He's the last one to go. He's playing the piano. He's walking around the house one last time, kind of sharing his memories of the show. Talking about how he's got a new family now. It's being taken away, like I just said. But then he says this. Again, this was not filmed prior to, or it was filmed prior to his death, obviously. And it also aired prior to his death. It did not air afterwards. This aired a year and a half earlier. So watching this back, I'd completely forgotten this was a part of the program, but he leaves us with this. He says, I don't think we will all ever see each other again, which is true. Actually, no, that's a lie. That is actually a lie, because they did meet up. They did reunite for that one episode, which I will talk about in the next episode of WWE Network and Show. The boys are back again to discuss the show, but beyond that, maybe they did. I'm sure they did at some point for like some sort of signing, or I know they did some kind of pre-screening for Legends House a few years back before it debuted on the network. So I'm sure they did all see each other again at some point, but now it'll never again be possible. Now that Piper has passed away, so that was really a touching ending to the show. Before Piper closes the door, and that is the end of Legends House. So again, not the final episode of a Legends House. We got one more to go right here on WWE Network and Chill, episode 10, a reunion of sorts entitled "The Boys Are Back Again," discussing their beef good times, bad times, all that other good stuff, their fondest memories of the show on episode 10 of Legends House. That is coming up in the next edition of WWE Network and Chill. So anyway, guys, on a lighter note, man, that was a real intense episode. If you couldn't already tell, check it out. It really is undoubtedly the best episode of the show. Not the funniest, of course, but it really is amazing in more ways than one, with everyone kind of shedding their layers and sharing some stories, both dark and great and everything else in between. Pat Patterson's rendition of My Way is phenomenal, and the closing scene is really something you got to see. So 2 thumbs up for this episode and 2 thumbs up for Legends House. Really a fun time watching it. And we will be back in the next edition of WWE Network and Chill covering episode 10, season 1, and the only season, unfortunately, to date anyway, of Legends House. So in the meantime, and in between time, guys, as always, be sure to follow me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews, and right here on YouTube by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. All your support is amazingly appreciated. Have a great one, guys. Enjoy Survivor Series tonight. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch you folks down the road.